Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video. We're going to look at the ECMWF 30-day model for today's first video. So we're going to look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies the next 4 weeks. That will take us just into the beginning of December. I think we get to December the 1st now in week 4. So, we'll see what the ECMWF is predicting, not just for the UK, but for the rest of Europe too, in terms of temperature and precipitation anomalies the next 4 weeks. We can't show you mean sea level pressure or 500 millibar heights with this, but you get a rough idea of the sort of pattern that will be suggested sometimes from the temperature and precipitation anomalies. So that's what we're doing first of all. Second video update later on today will be the week to 10-day video, including all of the regular features. I think we'll have a quick look at the stratosphere at the start of that one, because there are a few interesting developments already stratospherically. More about that later. I'm going to start off with the week 1 temperature anomaly. So it's week 45 for the year. It's taking us from the 4th through to the 10th of November. This coming from the Hungarian Met Office, by the way, so a big thank you to them for supplying the charts. So we see a real northwest-southeast split with a temperature anomaly in the week ahead. Very significantly colder than average in the north and west, and particularly across northern parts of Scandinavia, where we're actually going under 10 degrees below average on the scale. I think they've had to increase this scale. It's not very often that you see it going underneath 10 degrees Celsius. So we have got a few little areas there across the far north of Norway that are going below 10 Celsius below average. So severely cold across the northern parts of Scandinavia in the weekend. Many other parts of Scandinavia and over towards the Baltic are coming out below average as well. And these colder than average conditions extend down the western side of Europe. So for the UK, for Ireland, for the Low Countries, Belgium, Holland, down into France, into Spain, Portugal, we see, yes, that the temperature anomaly is below average as well, around 1 to 3 degrees, quite widely below average. Also got Denmark coming out below average as well, in the far west of Germany. Germany actually marks the dividing line, though, between much warmer conditions in the east and the southeast. So from like Germany eastwards into Poland and then on to Ukraine, it's much warmer than average. And actually, we've got some parts of sort of southwestern Russia and down towards Ukraine, then in towards the Balkans, that are between 6 and 10 degrees above average. So exceptionally mild, if not quite warm, in that eastern and southeastern part of Europe, but much colder in the north and west. We see this reflected in the Mediterranean as well. So western parts of the Med, from Corsica and Sardinia back to Spain and Portugal, overall below average, but from Italy eastwards down into Greece and Turkey, again, it's a warmer than average week coming up through that area. So a clear northwest-southeast divide with the temperature in the week ahead for Europe, and not all that often you see it quite as stark as that, but it is one of the ways that the weather system balances itself out, with one part of Europe, the southeast, doing one thing and the northwest tending to do the opposite. This is how things are looking in terms of precipitation in the weekend from the 4th to the 10th of November. So where it's coldest across Scandinavia, it's also pretty dry. So you can envisage it shows quite a bit of high pressure sitting in the northern latitudes, and so it's cold and dry. But what precipitation does fall, obviously, is going to be falling as snow quite widely across Scandinavia. Many other parts of Europe, though, are looking really quite unsettled. We have got the north and west of Scotland that's drier than average, but for the rest of Ireland, England and Wales, it's generally wetter than average. It means wetter average conditions extend down into France and particularly towards northern parts of Spain from the Bay of Biscay. Looks exceptionally wet there. Most of the Mediterranean is looking wetter than average in the week ahead, so I think can envisage there's going to be quite a lot of thunderstorms and heavy showers and longer spells of rain through much of the Mediterranean. And then we go up the eastern side of Europe, and it's looking quite wet there as well. So even where it's warm in that eastern and southeastern part of Europe, it is quite unsettled. Obviously you can see, but we're likely to have high pressure sitting up here which is bringing those cold winds in from the north and the northeast across many northern parts of Europe. But it does otherwise look as though low pressure is fairly dominant across much of Europe in the week ahead. We go through to week 2, which is week 46 for the year. So again, towards the end of the year now, of course, it's the 11th to the 17th of November. No change, really. We see the northwest-southeast divide continuing there. So again, we've got Scandinavia looking really quite cold. Temperature anomalies widely sort of 3 to 6 degrees below average. Some places going down to around 6 to 10 degrees below average. Cold average for the UK and for Ireland as well. Going to be a cold first half to November. I think definitely the Netherlands, Belgium, Holland, all of those areas in the Low Countries coming out with cold average temperatures. France coming out cold average, as is Spain, Portugal, and even down into northern parts of Africa. Again, we see that in the east of southeast Europe, it's a much warmer scene from sort of Greece, Turkey, the Black Sea, the Balkans, going northwards into the southwest of Russia and over towards Poland, Ukraine. Again, those areas have got temperature anomalies above average, between 3 and 6 degrees quite widely. 1 or 2 areas probably going warmer than that, 6 to 10 degrees warmer than average. And the Med again marks that boundary through the central part of the Mediterranean. So again, from Corsica, Sardinia, back to Spain and Portugal, it's colder than average. From Italy to Greece and Turkey, it's warmer than average. So the first half of November very clearly marked out to have a northwest-southeast divide with the temperature anomalies. And then precipitation for week 2 from the 11th to 17th of November looking like that. So still quite dry up across the far north and northern part of Scandinavia and across much of Norway. Again, I think we can envisage there's probably going to be quite a lot of blocking areas of high pressure here and possibly into the central part of the Northern Atlantic Ocean as well. So this area looks like it's all dominated by high pressure, which then forces wind in from the north or from the northeast across this northern and western part of Europe. So you can see where the blocking features are sitting, I think. Otherwise, again, looks very unsettled through the Mediterranean, so particularly around Italy, in this central bowl of Mediterranean, looks really, really wet. Some big thunderstorms going on there, probably caused by that temperature contrast between the warm air to the east and the colder air to the north and west. That will probably fuel a big area of low pressure through the Mediterranean, which will be associated with lots of very heavy showers, thunderstorms, and probably longer spells of torrential rain too. So it could be really wet through the central bowl of the Med. Going further north and east, close to average with precipitation anomalies, perhaps not quite as wet across the eastern part of Europe as it is in week 1. Actually, the southeast of the Mediterranean, Greece and Turkey, looking relatively dry. So it's a warm and dry week in that southeastern part of the Med. Wouldn't be too bad at all, I don't think, for a late autumn holiday, perhaps, to Greece, Turkey, or even Cyprus. Those areas should be pleasantly warm and relatively dry as well. Going further north, we see that the precipitation only, again, it's close to average, but bear in mind, any precipitation that's falling up here, across the far north of Europe, is going to be falling as snow, of course. Moving through to week 3, which is week 47 for the year, we're looking like this. A little bit of a change beginning to take place now. So it's still warmer than average in this southeastern part of the Mediterranean and Europe. So kind of like from the Adriatic and the Balkans down to Greece and Turkey, and then up to the Black Sea to the far south of Russia. It looks relatively mild still there. Still quite cold in the extreme southwest of Europe, so France, Spain, Portugal down to North Africa, below average. Ireland also comes out below average. The UK is close to average, but a change to Scandinavia, where we have lost those much colder average temperature anomalies, and we've reverted to average, to possibly hinting at being a little bit above. It's not a big deviation, but certainly it looks like we lose those cold, very cold temperature anomalies that we have in the first half of November as we get through to the second part of the month. There is a lot of white there across Central and northern parts of Europe, which is either average or no signal. And by week 3, usually these signals are weakening quite a bit. That's how we look for precipitation in week 3, which is the 18th, 24th of November. So, again, it looks very unsettled through this central part of the Med. Bear in mind, we're at week 3, so the anomalies are weakening, but we can still see it's clearly wetter than average through that central bowl of the Med. Otherwise, most central, northern and western areas are looking relatively dry. So I imagine the high pressure's repositioning. Notice this is a little bit wetter to the west of the UK and up towards Iceland. So low pressure perhaps coming back here. It's still driving average up across Scandinavia, but it's also driving average going down to Germany. So I imagine the blocking area of high pressure is probably repositioning and moving southwards perhaps into sort of southern Scandinavia and Germany, which would allow just a little bit more influence from the jet stream to start to come back, and that's the reason that the temperatures begin to recover. Still lots of low pressure, of course, down here. So looking drier for northern parts of Europe, but not as cold. Still unsettled down across southern parts of Europe, particularly from the central part of the Mediterranean, and relatively warm still in the southeast. And then finally go through to week 4, which is week 48 for the year, taking us from the 25th November to, as I said at the start of the video, the first day of December. And it looks like temperatures, again, are a little bit above average across Scandinavia, so a definite shift in the temperature anomaly and the overall weather pattern, I would have thought, taking place in the second half of November to something milder across the northern parts of Europe. Still significantly above average with the temperature anomaly in the southeastern part of Europe. Otherwise, there's not a lot else to be seen. It's still a bit cold on average here, or hinting at it anyway. Sort of close to France and down to Spain and Portugal, possibly close to Ireland as well. Remember, it's 4 weeks away, so the anomalies are very weak at this point. Otherwise, we see lots of white, which is either average or no signal. I suspect by this point, a lot of that is no signal. The model just can't decipher a signal by the time we get through to week 4. And we see it for precipitation as well. So really weak signals as usual for precipitation. Also, so it would be a little bit wetter, or could be a little bit wetter than average down in the southeastern corner now, so around Greece and Turkey, possibly going a little bit wetter than average there. And also a bit wetter than average over parts of Scandinavia as well. A bit drier than average through the Low Countries. Otherwise, not a lot else to be seen. I suspect the jet stream is beginning to return a little bit from the Atlantic, and that's the reason the temperatures are picking up in the north and the west of Europe. But again, such weak signals that by this point, I think really we have to say that it's very difficult to decipher exactly what is going on by the time we get through to the end of November. We can definitely say with strong confidence that the first half of November is dominated by much colder than average conditions in the north and the west of Europe, and much warmer than average conditions in the south and the east of Europe. That takes up to the middle part of the month. The second half of the month seems to be showing some sort of pattern shift where it goes much milder in the north, particularly for Scandinavia, and it begins to perhaps cool down just a little bit in the eastern and southeastern part of Europe. But again, as we get through to week 3, and particularly week 4, the signals are getting ever weaker. Right, so that's it for the ECM 30 Day Look today. We'll do it all over again next week. Remember, it's just a snapshot of what the model is showing this week. It could look very different next week. We'll be back later on with your week to 10 day video update. That's going to take us to the middle of November and beyond, so come back for that then. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.